It's been a while since I've been able to stand in front of a microphone and talk. Come on in and have a seat, everyone. We've almost got minimum viable audience. Oh, well behaved one too. Any startup founders here who can't find their seat to go, they'll still be in at the bar, as you know. You're also well behaved. It's like, is this your first time out in public? Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yes, you're all still on mute. Hello, everyone. My name is Simon Thompson. I'm the editor of StartupDaily.net and the host of the Startup Daily Show on Ausbiz, 2 p.m. every weekday. I hope you all watch it. If you can't, because you're too busy building your companies, you can watch it on catch up on ausbiz.com.au. Before we kick off, I do want to begin by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, whose lands we meet on today. We share knowledge today and we pay respect to that knowledge, and any Indigenous people here, welcome to the country. This is a beautiful part of this nation, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. It's great to have you all join us, and hello to the tree people out there. I always wanted to pretend I was Neil Diamond Hall tonight, so I'm just saying that to everyone who's online and watching. We've got a great couple of hours, or an hour and a half actually, of thinking hard, and then you can go back to drinking and snacking. Today, as you've probably seen, it's in 3 parts. We're going to have a fireside chat with Alex Hattingh shortly. We're going to have a keynote address, and then we're going to get into a panel. Today is all about drilling down into that early stage startup stuff. I do want to thank Microsoft for Startups for making this possible. When the team at Pinstripe sat down with them about what to do, it was very much that sense of what can we do to make life a little better, a little smarter, a little bit more interesting, and hopefully occasionally funny and well-watered for founders and those who are building startups. So this is the result. We have a series. There are 2 today and tomorrow at 4 p.m. or 4:30 again, and then next month we'll be doing it all over again for the scale-up side. So thanks also to BDO, Parallo, Ingram Micro, Legal Vision, Azure, and thanks to Tankstream Labs especially for hosting us today. But I am going to hand over to Kathy McGuinness from Microsoft for Startups to kick off proceedings, and then we're going to sit down and have a chat. So over to you. Give her a big hand. Come on, warm up. Yelling, cheering. Woo.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy McGuinness, and I am in my happiest, actually, in this particular setting with all of you guys, human Swiss Army knives, ready to sort of contort into whatever shape you need to fix the problems of the world. And it's my job to take care of all the startups across APAC in our program, and it's also my job to take care of the startups that aren't in our program. So maybe you are at the stage where you're looking to best place to start up shop. Anyone's welcome to do a flyby and check out what's on offer in our new Founders Hub platform, which is open to anyone with an idea and designed to support all founders from idea to exit. Founders Hub brings together the technology, guidance, and support you need to hit your next milestone. Enjoy what we have on the menu this evening. From startup legends to hometown heroes, each speaker joining us this evening has been specially curated based on their well-trodden understanding of startups' early path. So who's here? We have Alex Hattingh, Chief People Officer at Employment Hero, and she's going to talk about building a superstar team, how to get and keep the best talent. Followed by Adele Moynihan, Associate Partner at Antler, who will break down the seemingly gargantuan task of building a company with purpose. This is going to involve unleashing your unique experience to solve a specific problem. So I hope you all have a sharp pencil and a clean notepad. And because time is always of the essence, we'll bring it home on how to quickly scale with the right people and partners. Between 3 people who have an abundance of gold dust you want to catch every speck of. Bree Kirkham, CEO of Folklore Ventures, Steve Grace, founder of the Nudge Group, and Brad Delamare, CEO of Tankstream Labs. Thank you so much, Tankstream Labs, for having us. And also our partners for the event, BDO, Parallo, Ingram Micro, Legal Vision, and Assured. And since everyone has made such a big effort to show up here in person, do make sure to chat to them and see what it is they are here to do for you, because it is undoubtedly something amazing. And a couple of housekeeping points. Everybody might have walked past the bathroom on your way in over there. There's drinks and food. There'll be no Will Smithing tonight. No matter if you don't like the content or not, it didn't go well, and it won't tonight. So with that, I'll hand it to Simon to kick us off with Alex. Hello.
Yeah, I have nothing to say about hair, except, my wife generally tells me to get a haircut. Alex, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to dive straight into this. So the discussion here is building a superstar team, how to get, keep, and keep the best talent, which I'm sure you've all experienced along the way. We've had plenty of discussion lately about salaries. And of course, when you're building a startup and you're bootstrapping and everything is lean, of course, the paybook is sort of a big challenge and costs are going up. If you're a small startup, how do you compete with the Atlassians, the Canvas, dare I say, even the employment heroes of the world who might have a slightly bigger balance sheet? How do you attract talent beyond the salary?
Yeah, such a great question, Simon. And just to give you all a little bit of background, first of all, thanks for having me. We hit unicorn status early last year. We're the 8th Australian company, and we're valued at $1.25 billion. I've been with Employment Hero for 4 years. When I started, we were less than 100 people. Ben Thompson brought me in, being a prior client, knowing that as a founder, you need to bring in the function pretty early. We're now 500 plus strong across the globe, looking to scale to 1,000 people by the end of this year. 3,000 by 2024. So exactly what Simon is talking about is what keeps me awake at night. And we are seeing at the moment, I'm interviewing people that I spoke to last year that are in engineering and tech roles, asking for 180K. Now they're asking for 250K. There was a study released last week by HRD magazine, and it showed that the cost to replace an employee is $23,000, which is twice what it was a year ago. So it's absolutely worth my time. Right. And for everyone out there who is in startup mode and, your financials are key, it is time to benchmark your key people. So look at your top people and benchmark them now before they come to you and or resign. They're getting approximately 10 emails every single week, and companies are learning with new tools how to really target your talent. So benchmark them now, but it is so much more about just money. People are joining startups for reasons such as you see them coming to us from massive companies like Atlassian, and they want to own end-to-end processes. Give them that responsibility. Give them ESOP. Give them a great culture and things like reward and recognition, and show them the value of your company and what they can do and how they can impact it. People that joined companies like Atlassian, or I even worked at Google, when they were small and they had a lot of control, now with here in Australia or remotely, is to have that autonomy to really own something and innovate, as well as lack of hierarchy, which is really important to hold on to.
I do want to say, if you hear any pearls of wisdom and you want to share them on Twitter or whatever social media channel you're on, maybe you're a TikTok influencer or something, Unicorn Series is going to be our hashtag for this, so Unicorn Series. Alex, those numbers are kind of like, just remind me that I'm sort of a bit stupid staying in journalism and I really need to do a little bit more engineering. But you kind of mentioned things like the employee share schemes, and that's a really tangible way to do it. We saw some movement from the federal government in the budget last week, which was widely welcomed by many. Are there any other tidbits that are important in terms of why people choose to come and work for someone? Is it because you like the founder, you like their vision, you like the product? Because we've moved on from ping pong tables and free beer and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, look, COVID has done the change management for us as it pertains to both remote work and hiring globally. I cannot believe that we limited ourselves to Sydney within a 20-minute commute of our office in Kent Street. Then COVID hit and we started hiring all over Australia. Our talent pool just expanded 100-fold and it was amazing. So you've got to look at your EVP. What are you offering people in this remote world and how are you really cultivating that culture, and also sell the value of your ESOP. There aren't a ton of companies in Australia that offer every employee ESOP. We do. So talk to them about the value of it, not the number of shares they're getting. You're getting 1,000 shares. No, you're not. You're getting X number of shares that are valued at 5 cents, and we've seen an 800% increase in the value of our ESOP since we started. So you need to talk to them about the value of it and the future of it, and that you're all owners and aligned. People also during COVID have certainly discovered that they want to work for a company with a purpose. So make sure you align all of your EVP, your interviewing, your candidate experience, your hiring managers need to tell stories about your purpose. You're not selling widgets, you're solving a problem. What are you solving? That's what people want to be involved with. They want to be involved in impacting society and companies. For us, it's about impacting companies and helping make employment more valuable for everyone, but also helping to open employment for all of society. So really, if you can join all of those together, more than just money.
You've got a sense that that's also a generational shift that's really come in terms of how younger people look at work, because, I've been in the workforce for more than 3 decades now, and there was that sense that it's a job, and it's going to pay the bills. When I talk to younger generations now, there's very much a sense of purpose around what they're doing that is one of the key drivers of why they choose where they work.
Absolutely, but our youngsters also want everything, and they're also not loving the remote world of work. So, for example, if I look at our office at Kent Street, which is open, our younger generations are certainly coming in more because they want that social interaction, and we're also learning as we go. You think about back to the beginning of your career. How did you learn? You learned by overhearing conversations, being in meetings, looking up to mentors. So how do you create that shadow experience in a virtual world? And really getting out there with the EVP for your younger people. So we've been doing bunches of videos with younger people to show them how we have cultivated a really great virtual remote work environment to make sure we attract them and make sure you focus on internal career development as well. So when a role opens up, look internally first. Don't go external unless you know you don't have someone internal that you can move to that role. Even if they're not ready, take the risk. Give them confidence. Give them the learning that they need to move into that more senior role.
That's an interesting aspect I do want to sort of tackle, because when I was talking to someone just the other day who sort of said they're changing jobs because there's no career progression. There's no opportunity for them to move up, even sideways, that they're limited in their role and they want that challenge. How do you sell that in the early stages of a startup? Because of course, you might be 4 or 5 people, half a dozen. How do you sell that employment hero? We're putting on 3,000 people in the next sort of couple of years thing, a couple of years down the track when perhaps they can't quite see it?
Yeah, great question. It's all about transparency and making sure you have a cadence of communication around where the business is going and where the opportunities are. Take a step back though. You need to give your employees what's called psychological safety. If you haven't heard of that, that's the confidence to talk to your manager about anything, or a mentor, which is, I'm not seeing a career path, so I'm going to leave. So try and give them that career path. However, if it's not there, let them move on and make sure their experience of leaving your company is super positive. So they're always a brand advocate. And look, they could boomerang and come back. LinkedIn are the perfect best case scenario of this. During induction, they say to their employees, our average tenure is 2 years. During those 2 years, we expect you to give us the most of you. we will give you the most of us. If you choose to leave because we can't provide you with your next opportunity, we hope you go somewhere, learn, grow, and come back. So sometimes you do see great people leave. Make sure you give them a great experience if they do, but also try and create those unique moments where you can help them grow.
Now, in terms of career progression, I'll just talk about my own experience. Journalists are generally terrible managers. You know, they're quite good storytellers, but the way it works in a large media organisation, of course, is that they do get promoted and they find themselves in situations where perhaps the skill set is a little bit lacking in terms of dealing with people. A little bit of irony in there. I want to ask you about onboarding. How crucial is this to the way you tackle setting the tone and the scene for someone coming to work for a company? And what are the things that people really need to think about and need to tick off in that moment? Because that is that first impression thing. Yes, you've signed on, but you're consummating at this point.
So important, and I freaked out when we went to remote work. I was, first of all, how do I do my job from home? Not possible. I'm Chief People Officer. And then I got my team together to brainstorm about how do we recreate our in-person onboarding experience in a remote world of work. The first thing we came up with was a welcome pack that we would send to employees that really showcased our culture. So I'd call our culture very sassy and very classy and very cheeky. And so we showcased that in our welcome pack. It had usual t-shirt, laptop cover swag, values posters, stickers, etc. We also included a toilet paper roll, a drink for their first all hands, a handwritten note from their manager, which was actually typed but put into a hero card. And that really made an impact on them, receiving that a few weeks before they started, and then making sure our managers know that a virtual onboarding is 90 days, it's not a week. So starting with company induction, and Wednesday starts is another great thing I've introduced. Less anxiety on the employee, they've only got 3 days of being overwhelmed, and hiring managers, great feedback. On a Sunday night, they're not feeling anxious about Alex starting on Monday, and I've done crap all to, kind of organise for her. She starts on Wednesday. I've got time to meet her for a virtual coffee at 9:30 a.m. and then I've got time on Friday to organise virtual drinks after our all hands. So that Wednesday start has also worked really well for us, and just making sure you get that onboarding process in place, and then having someone check in with them on the 1 month and 6 month periods in terms of someone neutral. So not their manager, either a mentor or someone in people and culture if you're fortunate enough to have the function.
Now, we touched on it a little bit earlier, that whole hybrid remote thing, and everyone is still feeling saying, once a quarter. We've got people who are saying, right, you're coming back in and here's when. How are you thinking about it, the Employment Hero, taking this and then providing advice to others? Because we are feeling our way, and I made this comment to you the other day when we were talking, that there was something that someone said to me I read very early on that sort of said, the reason we can work remotely is because we've basically banked a whole lot of interactions between each other so that we know each other. I can read you, I know your tone of voice, it doesn't come across in a Slack note. I know the type of person you are. It's really hard to translate that into remote tools. How are we doing? How are we going to do it? And what do we need to watch out for?
So I'm sure you've all heard about the Great Resignation. My biggest, strongest advice is don't do it. Do not force anyone back into the workplace. COVID has done the change management for us. Let's run with it. So go remote first. 2 months into going remote first, I surveyed our employees about their wellbeing. I threw in the question, who wants to go back to traditional work? 92% of our employees said never. So I brainstormed with Ben Thompson, my founder and CEO, and we went remote first before Atlassian, before Google, before any of those companies. Our only requirement is that you attend a global gathering for 4 days once a year, and that's all about social connection and team bonding. This year it's to be our inaugural in August in Thailand for 4 to 5 days, and that's the only requirement. It's up to you when and if you travel for offsites. You need to be able to hold on to this remote work, providing people with flexibility. Trust them. I had many managers when we went remote that would call me and say, how do I know my employee is doing their work? How do I know they're online? And it's step back. Use OKRs, use output and trust, and also make sure you're looking after their well-being, because as leaders and managers, that's part of our role.
It is that funny thing that we needed to be, the sense that we needed to be standing over shoulders. It's kind of like you're a parent of a teenager sort of doing their HSC and don't quite trust them and think they're sort of doing Minecraft instead, which may be a reflection of my education, but I do want to ask about culture, because we've mentioned it. How do you define culture? What does it mean? How, as a founder, do you think about it? Because, of course, your mind is whirring at 1,000,000 miles an hour. You're trying to get your product together. There's that whole sense of push hard, push fast, all of the things that you've got to do. It's something that could potentially get lost in that moment because you're so driven.
Oh, absolutely. And there's so much research that says the culture of a startup is very much based around the original founder's personality and traits, which is really true because they're responsible for hiring the first 50 to 100 people. I'll never forget having to tell Ben Thompson that he had to stop interviewing BDMs, individual contributor salespeople, and I had to fight with him for it because he was just still so bent on making sure he hired the right people. So going back to your original question, culture, to define it is really hard, but I say it's the unwritten set of rules that guides your behaviour and your beliefs and how you behave together. It's the whole Atlassian don't be a dickhead and don't hire an asshole kind of scenario. And how do you build that culture? You build it by hiring the right people based on your values and your purpose. And you have to have that throughout your DNA, throughout your hiring, throughout your EVP process, and your leaders need to live it and breathe it every single day. And you need to have candid conversations when people are not living those values. And when you do occasionally, or more than occasionally, as you scale quickly, hire the wrong arsehole, you need to make that call and let them go really, really quickly.
So here's the other part, because we've sort of seen it, and I'm thinking of the WeWorks and the Uber moments where, you do have a leader who set a far from satisfactory tone, and it infected the entire organisation, and someone else has to come in and sort of sort that out. If you are the founder, and we all have our dickhead moments, everyone is going to go there. How do you tackle that, flipping it around? Because, of course, you're telling the captain of the ship, that Commander Bligh, things aren't quite going to plan here. How do you have that conversation? I don't know if Ben ever gets out of line, but, I'm sure there are moments when you go up to him and say, hey, mate.
Oh, look, being a founder, you are so passionate about what you do, obviously, and it's so different. I've worked for CEOs before and I've worked for founders, and I much prefer founders. They're so passionate about what they do to the point where maybe at midnight they might send an email that really crosses the line. And in doing that, they're upsetting a lot of people, and you could see departures. So you need to call the founder and the CEO on that, point out their behaviour, situation, behaviour, impact. What was the situation? What was their behaviour? And how did it impact the particular people? And then they have to own it. We all make mistakes. And one of the great things about a culture like Employment Hero and Google is you can admit to your mistakes. You can say, I effed up on this. I dropped the ball on that. I'm so sorry. What did you learn from that? And even over the other day, I slacked Ben. It must have been 9 p.m. at night, and I was doing a session with our UK team, and I just said to him, holy crap, Ben, I've completely dropped the ball on this. I am so sorry. And it was just these 3 sentences while I was doing something else, and he just wrote back and said, thanks for owning it, Alex. What have you learned from it, and how are you going to move forward?
Really cool on that front. I do want to sort of just, in the few minutes we've got left, because we are going to throw things open to you guys to ask questions, because I hope you've got a squillion questions and you've got one of the smartest people in the room to ask them of. Fun. How do you build fun into work? How do you make it fun? People generally love what they do if they're in the right place, but that sense of playfulness, that sense of joy, the sense of discovery that comes with having a great job, which of course is part of the DNA of a startup.
Oh, I love this. And this is a question I actually asked Ben and the leadership team when I interviewed with them. I had a list of non-negotiables. One of them was we always treat people like humans. Another one was I never, ever want to work for a company again that isn't fun. And Simon and I have had this conversation where we've both had a couple of pretty toxic experiences in corporates in Australia. And fun comes naturally, but going into this remote world, you have to build it. It's all about reward and recognition. It's all about being playful and allowing things to get fun. And it's also about having that cadence of virtual, social recognition as well as get-togethers. So we're now remote. My team is distributed beyond Sydney, for example. So if I want to do automatically I go, let's have drinks at the Shelbourne. Oh no, hang on, I can't do that because I've got team members outside Sydney. So it's about a virtual trivia night or a virtual happy hour. The whole thing about remote first principles is if one person dials into a meeting, everybody dials in so that nobody ever feels excluded. Same thing goes for social get-togethers. Everyone needs to be invited. It could be a trivia night. We've done drag queen bingo. You've just got to keep the fun going, or you lose it. And during all hands, if you got a memo of our chat messages during the Zoom, it's just a mixture. And I have to warn new hires, when you attend your first all hands on a Friday, you will not understand what's happening in the chat message because people are just rigging each other, celebrating each other, giving someone, throwing people under the bus. And it just takes people a little while to kind of get on board with that because we're certainly far from corporate.
So 2 years down the track, what have you learnt about people and working remotely that has surprised you and delighted you in terms of the experience?
That it's possible. As I said, I actually said to myself on the day, I'm going to come to the office every day. I cannot do my job remotely. And then New South Wales locked down, so I had no choice but to work remotely. So it's about focusing on the people and focusing on your people managers to help them lead their teams and also cadence one-on-ones, huddles, not so that you're checking that people are awake, so that you're having some fun, starting meetings with things like celebrations, so it's not all about business, and making sure you're celebrating milestones like anniversaries, sales, and focusing, of course, on all functions across the business. I think in every business I've ever worked in, one of the biggest pieces of negative feedback I've gotten is sales and marketing get too much recognition. How do you recognize product and engineering and the support functions? So just focusing on the entire company is really important.
Yeah, that reminder that it's actually a scaffolding that requires every crossbar in order to be able to build. All right, guys, over to you. Who's got a question?
Surprise, surprise, the shy guy is always first. Alex, that is great. It is enlightening, but I'm very interested in how you have framed your ESOP. Remember a story I read many years ago about a guy who visited a hospital and he asked the janitor what he did, expecting the janitor to say he cleaned, etc. And the janitor said, "We save lives here." And it always stuck with me. It was everybody contributing. How do you construct and skew and distribute the ESOP so from the janitor to the 250K guy, you actually get it right or as right as possible?
Yeah, I love that story. And look, we're still growing and learning as we go. I wasn't part of Employment Hero when our Series A and our ESOP was first distributed. However, it was very both scientific and objective. So if you'd started with the company 5 years ago, you had contributed differently to the valuation of Employment Hero based on your level and based on your performance as well. You had people working weekends until 11 p.m. So they obviously did get more ESOP. We are starting to move into a more scientific approach. We're not there quite yet. Fortunately, one of our VC partners, Insight Partners, has Centres of Excellence. So I'm working with my CFO at the moment about coming up with a more scientific approach. The most important thing about ESOP, though, is to sell the value of it. So talk to your candidates not about you're getting 1,000 shares, you're getting 5,000 ESOP. The value today is 5 cents, strike price, and the valuation today is $26.50. Let me do the math for you. So sell them the value.
And just remind them that every time they see a capital raise news story with a valuation on the back of it, they're part of that in the process. More questions?
Oh, and sorry, just to go one step further, we have a value called Own It, which all comes back to our ESOP. So as you mentioned, the great story of the janitor, every employee at Employment Hero is an owner of the company. So think like an owner in every decision you make.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for sharing. Question for you. With regards to remote work, do you guys use employee tracking software by any chance?
Employee
tracking software?
Oh, my goodness, no.
Okay.
Vehemently against it.
Well, I caught one of my employees the other day, working on another task for a different client, open in a separate tab. So you're completely against it?
Completely against it. Simon mentioned before, managers are wondering if people are paying, I think it was Warcraft. Who cares? Who gives a crap? If they're giving the output and they're doing it in 4 hours and they can play their games for the next 5 hours, I don't care.
Okay. That's it.
So yeah, the moral of the story is benchmark output rather than hours in the day, because a little bit like your briefcase, you can always fill it if you want to. Who else has got a question?
Hello, thanks for that, Alex. What's the most difficult conversation you're having as from your leadership team down to your employees at the moment? Is there something that's really challenging employees at present?
Yeah, top of the funnel recruiting. So it's getting that top of the funnel with quality candidates. So we're using a metric at the moment called second stage. We have a golden metric each theme. For anyone who's heard of Rockefeller Habits, it's an absolutely amazing model. Ben Thompson's been using it for over 15 years, and you have a thematical quarter theme. And this quarter, we're focused on filling the top of the funnel, but we don't want it with candidates that don't get to what we call the second stage. So we're looking at doubling our second stage of candidates.
I've got a question. How do you instill ownership in employees? So if they're joining a company and they may not, really resonate with the culture yet, how do you instill that through existing cultures, and are there any tactics that you use?
Yeah, that's a great question. So starting with induction, you really explain to them what own it means as a value. So show them what it looks like as a positive, show them what it looks like as a negative, and then make sure their performance reviews, however you do them, 50% is based on the values of the company. Also reiterating probably on a quarterly basis, Rob Patterson, our CFO, reports out on the financials of the business. So everyone can see what they're contributing to our valuation and also their own ESOP. So they can see that going up. And for young people, it can be eye-opening. It's a mortgage on a house if they stay with us for 6 years. So by getting their mindset to focus on the revenue and the financial performance of the company, you're really getting them to think differently.
Yeah. Just think about Blackbird sort of and its investment in Canva and the fact that it's now worth about $8 billion. We talk about those 100Xs all the time. The employee can have the same experience on that front. Any more pressing questions? All right, one more.
Thanks for that, first of all. Any tips or recommendations for sole founders or small teams, obviously trying to move fast, on finding, key talent early on, and how do you gauge if they're a good culture fit?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I don't like the word culture fit because you can never keep a culture the same, especially as you're scaling. So you want to add to it. So cultural add. So making sure you're looking for diversity and you're not hiring people like you, which is a natural tendency in all of us as human beings. So always have someone else interview the last person to self-check on them and just be super transparent about what you're expecting. I don't like it when you try to trick candidates with questions to see if they're moving from a large corporate to your startup, can they handle your ambition and your pace and your lack of hierarchy and red tape. Just ask them. I remember Ben calling me during the process when we were talking about the job, and he said, Alex, I just want to check, you do realize they'll only be you for the time being and you'll be doing things that you did 20 years ago until you hire a team. And I was absolutely up for it. But just being upfront lets people know what they're signing up for so that you don't have someone start and they want to build an empire.
Thank you.
I like to remind myself that I'm quite dull and boring, so I want interesting and smart people around me, which kind of gives you a little bit of diversity. Alex, thank you so much for that. It's great to have you here. Thank you for these incredible insights. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Alex Hattingh.
Thanks for having me.
All right, now I want to welcome Greta Svensson to the stage from Microsoft to say a few words as well. Pick your way. You can crowd surf if you like, Greta. You grab a microphone and go for it. We're fast and loose here.
Wonderful. How good is this to be in person? It's so good, isn't it? And it's rare. It's been so rare over the past few years. And there's really only one thing that comes to mind that is just that rare. It's in my back pocket. It's a $50 note. $50 note. Can anyone tell me whose face is on this $50 note? Yeah. Can anyone tell me? Yep. 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 Yes. Yes. Yeah, David Unicorn. Here we go. You get my $50. Very, very good. I'm very, very impressed. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. 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 Exactly. And that's a week's wage. You enjoy that. You enjoy that. And what's interesting about particularly David is, back 1906, he was an amazing inventor. He invented about 19 things, and he was an Indigenous Australian. And the challenge back in that day was it was really hard. Great idea. He transformed a number of different industries, but one of his key inventions was the mechanical sheep shearer. So you think back then, Australian economy, you go from being able to shear about 30 sheep a day to 300 a day, and that's amazing for the economy and the globe. But as I said, he was an Indigenous Australian, and what that meant back then was that he didn't have the funds, he didn't necessarily have the support, so he couldn't get the patented rights for what he was inventing. So most of the stuff, amazing things he invented, was stolen. And so I like to tell that story because it's great to remember some of Australians' most amazing inventors that, definitely need it corrected and need to be remembered. And this is really important for us, particularly at Microsoft as well. So we actually have named a room upstairs after David, which is phenomenal, and I love that we've done that. And we continue to support early stage, later stage startups and digital businesses across Australia, New Zealand, and the world. And we do that by this year we've invested about $500 million USD in creating support and funding and mentoring through our Microsoft for Startups program. And we've just launched this amazing new Founders Hub and have been inundated with applications for it because startups can access about $350K per startup based on where they're at. And what that is Azure credits, but also access to mentoring. So important for a business to get the right mentoring and support, particularly tech. It's your competitive advantage. If you're not building your business well, if you're not picking the right technology, if you're not building it right, then it's going to be a really tough road. And so we wrap our arms around these companies really early stage and help them. But you also get a whole heap of licensed products as well. So security side of things, right to business insights and intelligence, and Office 365. So would love to talk to you about it. We've got Kathy here, but also Justin at the back. Give us a wave. Who we would love to have a chat to you about how we can help people that you know in this area or you yourselves. So phenomenal event. Thank you very much for having us, and we'll keep supporting you in whatever way we can.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now ask me about cryptocurrency.
Tell me about cryptocurrency.
I have no fucking idea.
Give me a headline. What does it mean to you? Yeah.
I still like these. I am old school.
Well, you keep your $50. There you go. You've earned your place tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, better. Kathy, over to you.
I'm just going to quickly asterisk it here. Nor Justin nor I have $50 in our back pockets, and if we did, I'd put it into crypto. So now let's welcome Adele Moynihan for an amazing session on building a company with purpose, unleashing your unique experience to solve a specific problem. I really love huge titles like that. I can't wait for what we're in for, but it's about to happen. Come on up. Stand, Mike. Go.
So firstly, it's not intimidating at all to follow a unicorn and someone literally giving away money. But like all of you, I've managed to make it out of my loungewear, brave the rain, and come and see everybody in person together, which is awesome. So yes, very long title. Hey, let's just condense that down to building a company with purpose. That's what I'm here to talk to you about. Why am I doing that? I'm an associate partner with Antler. I've been with Antler since our inception here in Australia, which is now over 3 years ago. In that time, I built our founder scouting function, which has attracted over 5,000 now applications. I lead our program, which is where we 4 teams validate ideas and make investment decisions. And recently I've moved into fundraising as well. So I've worked across all parts of the fund, which has been exhausting but rewarding. And today, yes, we're here to explore how to set the foundations of a company. And to be able to do this, you have to build with purpose. And you can do so by unleashing your unique potential to solve a problem. So, for anyone that didn't quite know about Antler and understand my little preamble about what I've been doing, Antler is a global VC, and we provide an unmatched capital pathway from pre-seed through to Series C. We work with founders at the earliest stages, so those who are pre-idea, but also existing businesses who have just got started. We're a foundational investor and long-term partner. And we write more than checks, because we're not just doing this here in Australia, we're doing it in 17 countries across the globe. So we help startups also to scale into those geographies and have the ability as an investor to follow on. So what does that look like? It looks like this. These are the companies that we've invested in over the last 3 years. We've invested in over 70. 6 of them are still active, and you can see that we are industry agnostic, so they go across enterprise SaaS. Of course, we're a VC, there's going to be enterprise SaaS, but also into interesting areas like green tech and machine learning and AI. How have we been doing and these companies been doing? Well, this slide gives the valuations over time. So we have a strong collection of companies with an over 10 million valuation and a group of them now with an impressive over 30 mil valuation. And it's worth calling out, and this is a key reason why you would co-found and build a business with Antler, is that 85% of our companies have received follow-on capital within 12 months. Now, who's been doing that? Some top-tier Australian VCs, SquarePeg, Airtree, and of course an international one with GFC. I'm going to mention Folklore, as I see 2 Folklore t-shirts just here as well. So that's really awesome to see the VC community really backing the companies that we are backing. So the foundations of startup success. We're here to talk about unleashing your unique potential to solve a specific problem. And it comes down to these 3 component parts, which is defining the problem you want to solve, designing a solution, and then being able to articulate the why you uniquely positioned to solve this. And at Antler, this is our core investment thesis, with identifying high potential individuals who are uniquely positioned to solve a specific problem and supporting them as a long-term investor. So you need an unfair advantage. Let's unpack what that is. So if you're solving a problem worth solving, quite frankly, you're not going to be the only team doing it. There are going to be those teams existing in Australia and also across the world. So once a team identifies a great solution, you're also going to have to run really fast because others will try and copy you, and they could be able to run faster than you. So for investors like Antler, you need to have the conviction to be able to clearly articulate your unique background and relevance to solving this problem. So that's the unfair advantage, which can be seen through 3 things, which is the strength of your founding team, your product capabilities, and your acquisition strategies. Now, these form the component parts of that elusive product market fit. So let's jump into each one of those. The founding team. Now at Antler, we have a founders-focused investment thesis, which is pegged heavily on the composition of the founding team. We believe that grit, tenacity, and ambition of the founding team really enable it to solve the problem that they're going after. Now, as I mentioned, I built the founder scouting function at Antler, which meant that we've attracted 5,000 founders. I've personally interviewed at least 3,000 of those over the last 3 years, which has been exhausting but very interesting. And I worked on a global project with Antler, which was how do we define what founder DNA is? And what the conclusion that I came to was that it's two things. The first of which is intelligence defined by creative problem solving. Many people are academically smart, but that needs to be applied to problem solving in a startup. And then also it's a relentless cadence of execution. So it's the rate at which you can produce work and outcomes. Sometimes that could be going wildly in the wrong direction, but hopefully you get yourself back on track and start going in the positive direction. And then you need to ask yourself whether you are only a handful of people uniquely positioned to solve this problem, and what's the complementary skill set that you have in the team, and be cognizant of any blind spots which need to be filled with advisors or early employees. At Antler, we also believe and invest in complementary, non-overlapping teams. So what does that mean? It means that we look for founders to have the breadth of skills so that you're not going to be outsourcing costly part of the build. So that could perhaps be marketing, it could be the tech build, but between the two people, you have breadth. We also ideally don't want you to be overlapping, because that means you can run at pace because you have clear ownership areas, so you're not on top of each other and having to squabble over not maybe the largest decisions. So here's an example. We have two very smiling faces of Alia and Ben. And I love this because for me, it truly is describing of founder fit, founder problem fit. So Alia is a Harvard undergraduate and holds a PhD in anthropology. And her and Ben have co-founded Storytelling. We have one of their investors here, actually. That's exciting. And Storytelling was born out of her essentially productizing her skill set. So through her research and mainly anthropological studies, she realized that the way you get the best stories is by asking the best questions. So what the product does is gives her questioning ability so that people can tell the best stories, so lives can be digitally recorded and not lost as the generations pass. Now, she co-founded with Ben, and Ben was a commercial leader from the iconic and also Hyper Anna. So some might think he would be the face of the business and the CEO. Well, actually, it's Alia. Alia leads fundraising, and Alia also is the face of the company. And that is thanks to her strong founder problem fit, because that really resonates with investors and employees. Now, the next is product. Of course, that's the winning component of a startup, is establishing that elusive product market fit. So as you're building and then iterating your MVP, it's important to drill down onto how you're going to be 10x stronger than the competition on metrics such as speed, price, and personalization. Now, I, of course, have an example of this as well, but I also wanted to touch on something that founders often come to Antler saying, I've got the idea, just give me the tech person to build it, and then we have a company. Now, that's not the best way to look at it, but I'm sure also other people in this room have heard that. And it's just to stress, like, that's not how startups work. And you should really think about the product that you want to build, and if that is needing of an actual CTO co-founder. We have many examples now in the Antler portfolio where it's not actually an in-depth technical solution, and so they've been able to create a revenue-generating product on no-code tools and then hire a lead developer a year in. So yes, an investor will always look more favorably on the ability to build within the co-founding team, but that is not the be-all and end-all. The example I wanted to give that sits within the Antler portfolio company of creating a product which is 10x better than your competitors is Salient. Now, this is the coming together of, again, two very smiley faces, Lars and Shivi. So Lars is a 3 times exited founder before coming to Antler. His most recent exit was to Alipay, who retained him as their chief product officer, and he met Shivi. Now, Shivi was part of the team that created the world's first bionic eye, which was here in Australia, excitingly. learned that through Shibby, and then also had a PhD in AI. And what he was fascinated with is having AI, rather than operate by brute force programming, to actually be able to enable it to act like how the human eye does, which is to really focus on a central point and then block out the peripherals. And what that is really important in is data processing, because you're only having to take the imagery, which is important. And the best example of this is the shark in the ocean. You need to see the shark, you don't need to see the whole ocean. So they created a computer vision software, which was 76 times the processing speed of its nearest competitor, which was acquired by Google. And in the last 2 years, they have sent that technology into space. They've been active in beehives, as in, yes, I mean honey. And they've also been awarded multiple patents, and it is now recognized as the world's fastest computer vision. So now, acquisition. Are you able to grow more quickly and cost effectively than the others? So gaining traction is no mean feat, and the best companies grow through organic traction by word of mouth as the product sells itself. And the best example of product-led growth is, of course, Atlassian. So in order to achieve this, you need to identify a starting advantage. Who are your early adopters? And how do you achieve getting a product in front of them that is either going to delight them or solve such a pain point that they're going to refer that throughout their communities? Our example is Tactic. Now, these founders are a little bit more camera shy. They are software engineers from Atlassian. And what they did was build Tactic, which is enabling you to access transcripts from your meetings directly from your calendar. Really useful, obviously, in our virtual world. They started building this ahead of COVID and then really rode that tailwind. And they, in the space of the last 2 years, have acquired 250,000 users and are active in 8,000 organizations, including Netflix, Shopify, and Spotify. So that's a wrap. I hope I spoke to what we at Antler look for in terms of founding team, product, and acquisition strategies, and the examples were helpful. If that's inspired anybody in the room to build their next business with Antler or refer any founders, you can't be in this building without knowing entrepreneurial types or be one yourself. So there's how you connect with us to find out more. Thanks, everyone.
Dramatic as promised. I was way off, guys. The gold dust started early and it's kept all the way through. And now it's time for a panel on getting shit done. I think I have a typo in mine. My S word has a hashtag in there, but I'm pretty sure the word is getting shit done. Lessons on scaling quickly with the right people and partners. Who is joining us for this? We have Bree Kirkham from Folklore Ventures. Thought I had the wrong person. No, Bree. And Steve Grace. And I'm actually I think it's best for me to hand over to you for a quick intro because no one knows you better than yourselves, and I might talk about boring things and you guys know your most electric points. And thirdly, we've got Brad Delamare, the CEO of Tankstream Labs, hiding in the bowels of Tankstream Labs, and he's just emerged. So just while his pupils adjust, I'll hand over to the panel. And I also just want to say that if there's anyone joining at home, everyone here, it's brilliant to show up to these events in person or online because this is kind of what you've earned. So thank you very much and enjoy.
Right, big hand, come on, clap. Thanks, Kathy. Okay, let's get some shit done in the next 45 minutes. I will start off with you guys just saying how you fit into the scheme of things and the skills you bring.
Thank you, Simon. Lovely to meet you all. I'm Bree Kirkham. I'm the COO of Folklore Ventures. We are a first check to forever venture firm, and it's lovely to see some of my colleagues in the audience. I started my career actually as a corporate lawyer, where I worked in private equity law for a few years. I then moved into the tech space roughly 8-9 years ago. I was at ClassPass, followed by Airbnb and Uber in a number of operations and strategy roles where I really had to get shit done, and then came over to the venture side probably about 10 months ago. So now very much obviously involved in operations within the firm, but also looking at how we can really support our portfolio companies and how we can support what we call founders in the wild. So hopefully that is the likes of you. And I am curious as to who everyone is in this audience. So I wondered if I could just get a show of hands as to who is a founder here, just so I know who we're talking to. Awesome. And the rest of you, do you make up teams within startups, or what sort of Alex does.
$50 notes for me.
Or me. Awesome. Cool. Great. Lovely to meet you, and hopefully this is interesting and you can get some golden nuggets.
Yeah. Cool.
There we go. Hi, my name is Steve Grace. I'm the CEO and founder of the Nudge Group, and we have a couple of other little companies that sit alongside that. The Nudge Group was something I started, what was it now, maybe 3 years ago. I'd come from a recruitment background. I'd had a couple of recruitment companies that I'd exited that I hated, and I was never going to do recruitment again. And I realized there was a huge problem that recruiters hated founders, founders hated recruiters, and it was awful. And I sat down with a lot of founders and I sat down with a lot of recruiters and found all the things they hated about each other, which was so much longer than I had initially thought. And we set up the Nudge Group to kind of overcome all of those. And I won't go into them, but there was a lot. And so it's essentially, it's a recruitment company that's designed specifically for very, very early stage startups. And we work with a lot of the Antler guys as they come out of that program, all the way up to unicorns. So we also work with Employment Hero. So we really do have that cross section, and we do that globally. And then we have a couple of other companies. We have a company called Balance the Grind that does a lot of interviews for founders and really talks about work-life balance. And then we've got another one that we've bought that I can't tell you about yet. But if you ask me afterwards, I might tell you.
Depends how many beers you've had. Hi, everyone. My name is Brad Delamare. I'm the CEO of Tankstream Labs, and I'm sure all of you have heard of Tankstream Labs, given you're in our premises. But essentially, what we're a technology-focused co-working space. In the early days, more of an incubator. But we work with startup companies, scale-up companies across Australia. Many companies probably that you've heard about, some here. Also, you just heard from Antler. They're based in Tankstream Labs. So a lot of those companies from Antler come through us as well. So, we provide the facilities, resources, education, access to funding, finance, etc. that businesses need to help them on that growth scale-up stage. And we've worked with, hundreds, if not thousands of businesses over the years. We've been around for like 10 years, based here in the Sydney Startup Hub. And we have worked with businesses that have scaled and become unicorns as well. So, we've been exposed to all those type of businesses.
Okay, guys, let's get cracking on the GSD. We've talked about people with Alex earlier today and, the crucial right hires. So I'm going to talk about partnerships because I think, let's assume, and we will delve into it anyway, but let's assume you've got the right people around you. This is taking it to the next level. How do you guys think about the people you partner with and the organizations that you want to work with?
I think there are a couple of different ways of looking at this. So obviously you partner with, there are partnerships that you elect to have, and we can definitely talk about how we sort of strategize and then operate those. But then there's partners with your clients, right? And I think as a founder or as a company, as someone building a team, it is crucial that you see your customers, your clients as your partners. Alex touched on this, and it's actually a really valid point that those are the people that can advocate for your brand more than anyone else, right? They are living and feeling your product. So it is crucial that they become those advocates from day one. And that means ensuring a high quality when you're engaging with them, and ensuring that quality never diminishes over time as you build and scale. From a sort of partnerships elective perspective, so if if you're wanting to build partnerships with, for us, various community groups or incubators, and Georgia in the audience does a lot of that. Think strategically about what that looks like, both in the short term and the long term, and think, how can that partner work with you, become part of your community, and really add value to who you're trying to service. So for us at Folklore, it's crucial that we partner with communities and with groups that really can add value to our portfolio companies and to potential founders coming through our doors.
And before you go any further, Bree, of course, the other key partnership that you do is with a startup. So tell us about that relationship, because of course, sometimes I think founders are tempted by the check size. Yeah. And of course, there's some pretty hungry VCs around right now with a
Absolutely.
lot of capital to deploy. How do you think about that partnership and being the right investor for the right company?
Couple of things there. So Cut Through Ventures shared the latest numbers. There was $860 million deployed into 72 startups in March alone. There is a lot of money flying around. And so there is a lot sort of out there that you can grab. But I think as you think strategically around who you want to partner with, Simon raises a really good point. It's not just about a check. That's great. It's about what else can that VC provide you with. And as we think about that at Folklore, it's really around what are the tools that we can give you to make this company succeed in the long term, not just for the next few months until they raise the Series A, but over the course of the entire life cycle of this business or the entire life cycle of that company. And what that might look like from a sort of actual reality point of view is, are there key hires that you need to make? And so how do we build a talent pool to service that? Are there sort of expansion plans that you have? And so we need to service that by having relationships with key VCs in the US. And we're very cognizant of building those communities and those platforms so that you can leverage off them if you sort of partner with Folklore.
Steve, you're a consummate networker, so you know a little bit too about partnerships, and sometimes they can be tricky along the way as well. Give us your take.
You can have some interesting founder partnerships that can be tricky, but we won't maybe get into that quite yet. But I think we partner with an enormous amount of people. We actually partner a lot with VCs, and the way we sort of look at partnerships and the way I think startup founders should look at partnerships is it has to be very much a two-way street. I think a lot of people look for partners that can help them grow without thinking about how they're going to help that other person. It's got to be a sort of symbiotic relationship, because if it's not, it becomes a sort of, it's almost like a paid partnership, and they're just not the ones that work. I think ideally we try and introduce a lot of startups to each other. We meet probably 5 to 10 startups every week. So that's a massive amount of people. And we try to introduce them to each other, because if you can get 2 startups, 3 startups, 4 startups working together as they grow and helping each other, that partnership is so much more effective. On the other side of the coin, you're also going to need partnerships like some of the people here. So like VCs and like Microsoft and like those kind of organizations that can give you access to things that you potentially wouldn't be able to get access to, can give you access to people that you wouldn't not necessarily be able to. And we do a lot around particularly helping people launch into other countries. I think the ideas of sort of having people that you'll partner with, and this sounds ridiculous, right? Have people to partner that can introduce you to other partners is probably, I know that sounds so stupid, but it's probably the most important thing that I've learned in terms of scaling a business quickly. And you end up creating your own mini ecosystem. And the startup community is I think it's a very honest community in that people genuinely want others to succeed. It's not lip service, they really do. And people are insanely generous with their time, even though they're probably the ones with the least out of everyone out there. You know, corporates probably have a lot more time. So I would try and focus your partnerships within the startup community. You'll get a heck of a lot more, and you'll grow with them, and you'll find that they will just automatically grow on their own. Gosh, that was a really unarticulate way of saying that.
I think you did all right.
I got confused, so I don't know. If you ask me again later.
It's the old Beatles line, though. I think it's something along the lines of the love you get is equal to the love you give, or take or make. But
we call it a karma loop in our company. We do. We have a lot of that. When we started thinking like that, our business just exploded. It really did.
All right, Brad, your karma.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there, Steve. But what I would say is, what we do here in Tank Labs, we provide a big community which is full of partnerships. And that's partnerships between startups themselves, and we really try to encourage that. there's nothing better than seeing two startup companies or scale-up companies working together and helping provide products or services for each other. There's partnerships with corporates, and that's really important and that's really essential. And that's why, for an early stage business or a high growth business, getting access to maybe some of that skill set, some of that expertise is really important, because, the corporates do want to get involved, and, it's companies can get access to that at very affordable rates if you're an early stage business. So I think that's really important, and people as well. So one of the things which we haven't touched on yet is people to help within the business. So such as mentors, and partnerships with people like that can really help provide expertise to the business, to the founders, to help them grow, help them scale. Is really, really important. And so, part of what we do here is provide a community of all those partnerships, as well as, partnerships with governments as well, is really important. And we do that, whether that's through grants or whether that's actually through opportunities to work with government. There's lots of different ways of forming partnerships. But I think fundamentally partnerships, as you grow a business, are so important. But as Steve said, they have to be two-way as well.
So I want to ask you all about the dance. You're sort of sounding someone out, deciding, am I going to go down this pathway with them? Will we hold hands? How do you benchmark? How do you measure sort of deciding whether someone is the right fit, the organisation is the right fit, whether there will be longevity, or maybe it's just, the sugar rush moment?
Got a really quick answer to that. In my view, it has to feel very natural. If it doesn't feel natural, it will break down at some stage. That's how I've sort of looked at it. So it's almost like a gut feel, put it that way.
For me, there's one quick response after that, and that's return on investment. So a lot of the partners might think about a return on investment, and if they do, and they bring it up early, I don't think that's the right partnership. To be honest, a partnership should be firstly all about the relationship side, and then later on potentially move into that. But I think, if return on investment is talked about in a partnership in the early stages, it's probably not the right fit.
I think both really great points. And from a VC perspective, with my folklore hat on, 75% of our investments have actually just been based purely on founders. So obviously it plays a massive, massive role. And I think I'm not on the investment team, I'm in the operations team, but I do agree that there probably is that X factor. It's, can you see this person being able to pivot, being able to take feedback and sort of take that well and turn it into opportunity? Can you see them growing a team and being able to sort of scale and have comfort doing that? So I think it's just sort of noticing that X factor, but then drilling deep on some of the crucial questions and sort of almost putting them in a bit of a pressure cooker and seeing how they'd respond.
Okay, well, we've got you, Bree. Let's just imagine Alistair's just written a check for $250,000, going to be a startup with a team of 2 or 3. You guys have all built businesses. You've had your moments. You probably had to sort of ship people along the way in leaner times. How do you know when it's the right time to hire someone and get the next person on? Is it your focus as a founder is getting drawn to too many sort of small things rather than sort of your core capabilities? How do you know it's the right time to take someone else on?
I'm not as incredible as these guys who have founded businesses, but if I think back to my days at ClassPass, I was the first hire on the ground when ClassPass actually expanded out to Australia, say for our general manager. And I think Al and the team, what they would look at is where it's just a clear one, like where are the gaps? What do you need to feel that you actually can't do? So what would be your uncomfortable zone? Where can you not operate based on the skills that you have? Who actually could do this job better than you, or who sort of is better placed given the skills and sort of background that they have? And I think it's just leaning into that and being vulnerable. I also think, from a VC perspective, and where we like to differentiate ourselves is having a pool of talent that we can provide you with. These are vetted talent that sort of have come through our doors who we know are very strong in certain ways, and getting access to quick talent like that and being able to make quick fills when you need to is crucial as well.
I think if you're venture backed, as you're saying, you've just been given a check. The most common thing we see is they want to hire everybody. They come to us and they go, I want to hire everyone. They want to spend all their money super quick. They do, yeah, well, more than double. Yeah, they have these crazy figures. I think, to me, when you're venture backed and you've got some money, the key thing is to say, okay, well, Once you've gone into a venture journey, you'll know that you'll have a target to hit for your next venture check, right? Which becomes your next focus, which is how startups think and grow quickly. So I think you've got to look at that and say, and in the light of this talk, getting shit done, you've got to say, okay, how am I going to get to that in the quickest possible time? What skills am I missing to do that faster? Because it's very much about speed. I think everyone who's come up here has touched on it before, particularly Adele was talking about making sure you don't have someone who runs faster than you. So you need to run at pace, you need to hit your next target, you need to get your next venture check. So you need to say, okay, what role or what two roles or whatever it is going to be the most effective at getting us there quickly, but with the right level of quality. And that's the role. So you can get to that next target of recurring revenue very quickly, but if you're doing it with a very poor product, then you're actually going to put yourself in a worse position to get the next one after that. So it's saying, right, there's the target. I've got to get that shit done. I need to get this person to make sure I do that in a stable way so I can continue to scale it past that next point.
I think there's 2 points I just want to talk about in this. One is wearing too many hats. I mean, as a founder and a business owner, you are pulled in so many different directions, and as Bree touched on, you're not obviously skilled in everything within the business and all areas of the business. So I think if you're wearing too many hats and you're getting pulled in too many directions, then that's obviously a very clear indication that you do need to expand your team or get the right people in to do those particular roles that maybe you're not necessarily strongest at. I think the second part is quality. And I think, if you are not, putting everything into the output, and the output is pretty poor, i.e. being stretched too far, and it happens all the time. I've experienced it, I've seen founders that experience it. Then I think that's when you need to analyze, actually, do we have the right team in place? Do we need more people? Because if I'm not producing the best output, then obviously customers are going to be disappointed. And at the end of the day, without the customers, you haven't got a business.
Now, in the whole GST thing and the hustle, I've seen plenty of people move really quickly, and I've seen them really busy and hyperactive. But I've also seen them end up in Newcastle when they need to be down in Wollongong. How do you keep the focus on being quick in the right direction, making sure you have purpose in being busy?
That is a massive. I'm saving the meaning of life for a little later, okay? And are they in Newcastle for a social thing, or they've just gotten lost off the map?
It's the direction.
Right, yeah.
You get lost and you're heading the wrong way.
Honestly, I think being very clear on what your unique positioning is crucial. So whether you're first to market, second to market, 10th to market, in order to sort of stay focused and focus on the right things, it's understanding what your unique positioning is and always sort of addressing that and speaking to that and running with that. And that can't just be at a founder level, that has to transcend through your whole organization. So they know what your competitive advantage is, they know what they need to achieve, they had visibility into your strategy and your OKRs, and so they can run at the pace that you need them to run with full certainty and full understanding of what they're trying to achieve. So essentially it really comes down to you knowing what that is and communicating it out across the company.
This is an interesting question. I don't remember seeing this question in the briefing notes. I think one of the things that we do a lot with founders, they often come to us in a bit of a tiz. They've got a lot of money and they're growing and they're all over the shop. So one of the things we do with them is we sit them down and we get them to talk to us and tell them their story. And this really refocuses people because they forget. So you sort of say, right, tell me why you started the business. What was the reason? When you started it, how do you feel? Where are you now and where are you going? And it can take about half an hour, 40 minutes for them to do that. And they often have completely forgotten why they're doing it, why they started it, where they're going, and what their ideas are. But by getting them to tell a story, and storytelling is a fun thing to do, right? By getting them to tell a story, they almost reconnect themselves with their purpose and their journey. And that doesn't always, but it certainly gives them a heck of a lot more clarity. And then you can work from that. Because I think often they think they're heading towards something which they shouldn't be, and that was never the reason. But that going right back through the story and telling it in a story way, rather than just sort of asking questions. You say, no, I'm not going to ask any questions. You're going to tell me from the beginning to the end, like we're doing a TV show or we're doing an interview, tell me your story. And you almost see the realization on their face as they go through. That's how we've sort of helped them. And it does tend to work.
Bang on. I mean, that's what the question was, focus. And I just used the story of, Melbourne or Newcastle and Wollongong as the example. But yeah, it's exactly that. It's remembering why you started in the first place and coming back to that and checking that. Love stories. Yeah, more stories are better. Brad?
I would say surround yourself with good advisors and mentors. So if you start early and you have some really good mentors, or you have some good advisors who can actually keep you in line, keep you in check, monitor your progress, they're the ones that are really important to keep you in line. Just make sure you're delivering to, whether that's the investment that was given to you, or whether that's actually to some kind of product timeline to get something to market, or whether you're in market and it's to reach some certain customer goals. I think surround yourself with, or get it on board with, some good advisors, some good mentors, and that will really help you from the early stages. Also, until you grow and you've got a large board in place, when you become, a successful unicorn.
Well, you talked about that mentor thing. A lot of people sort of say they want to be, like Elon Musk, or they want to be like Steve Jobs. I mean, whenever I think of Apple, I actually think the most interesting part of that company in those early days was actually Johnny Ive, and where he took that experience and the interaction and the way we felt as Apple users made him a much more interesting person than Steve jumping up and down. How do you find the right people in terms of your mentors to help you, or who will understand what you want to achieve and what your goals are? I have a personal trainer and I've been through a few and still failing at it. But, when the right one comes along, you do get a little bit fitter and thinner. It's amazing.
I'll
We'll go the other way.
We'll start this end. That's a good question, because I get asked this question all the time from especially early stage businesses. They ask me for advice, or they ask me, can I recommend any mentors, or can I recommend any good advisors for them? And the answer is, well, some people who would be really good are people that that you've worked with historically in the past, or that you have really good relationships, that understand you, how you operate. They would be really good people. Also, communities such as Tankstream Labs and other communities as well, who have people that are looking to give back, looking to get involved and help people. And also, I would say networking, speak to people. The more people you meet, and the more people that understand what you're trying to do and your business might want to get involved. So really important part is just expand your network, and you'll never know who you might find.
Yeah, I think my answer is similar. I think the community is probably the best part. I'm a member of a club called Cub, which has about 2,000 founders in it. And what I've loved about that is there's always new people joining, but they're all founders of businesses, and you meet people at very different stages of their business. I find they've always been the best mentors, but I also think that if you're on a venture journey, your VC, and I think Australian VCs are actually very, very good at this, are great at helping you find the right mentors, because they have such a broad view. They have so many different contacts. They'll have founders that have been through the process that may be where you, or have been where you are, and they can introduce you to them. And they will probably be able to help you in terms of the personality fit, because it's not just about finding someone who's been through the same journey as you. You could have completely polarizing views on so many different things, even though you're on the same journey. So that fit, again, that natural fit is really important. And I think you'll find that, someone should still solve this problem. Someone should start a startup to solve this problem. I think there's been a few that have tried to do it, but it's very hard to find the right mentors. And I think going into communities, meeting lots of people, talking to lots of people, they will naturally surface. But I do believe VCs here in Australia particularly are very good at giving mentors out to founders. So don't be afraid to ask them. Don't be afraid to go to your VC and say, I'm struggling, I need help, I want someone to advise. Don't think your VC is going to go, oh my God, take all the money back, they have got no idea. They're going to do the opposite. So lean on the people, and I think you touched on it earlier, being very vulnerable is how you're going to find the most help, I feel.
I have a strange feeling that someone has actually brought It's the Tinder for Mentors to me as a story pitch at some stage.
This is why it's good.
I said, what's Tinder?
But this is why it's good to go third. You just answered my question for me and did a little VC promotion. But no, it's a really good point. And I think one thing that we're really cognizant of is how can we support our founders and their teams in bespoke ways while still scaling, right? Like you want to have a number of portfolio companies under management. But back to the question, I think there's certain programs that we're designing to really ensure that we can do just that. So when our founders need support, we have a founder program which incorporates sort of mentors and coaches who have a skill set across a range of different have a range of different skills, and so you can get the support that you need through anything based on what your sort of where your gaps are or where you need to lean into. But I think fundamentally relationships is such an important one, and having somewhere to go to and having those programs that we're designing is a real value add.
I think another thing is, don't always think that your mentor needs to be older than you. I think a lot of people have this view that they need to find someone who's 20 years older. I don't agree with that at all. I've had some of the best advice from people significantly younger than me, which in a lot of these communities is nearly everyone. So it's good that it doesn't work that way. But don't close your eyes and have a sort of traditional view. I think people always think, oh, I've got to go and find someone who's been doing this for 30 years. It's just not true. You need someone with a different point of view, and you need someone who's going to be very honest with you. I think that's the key.
I absolutely agree with that, Steve. I mean, I've been around the block a few times now, and working with the AusBiz team, many of whom are in their 20s, it's the most exciting and energetic thing. It was the same at Business Insider. The younger people, their energy, their imagination, I'm kind of a little bit of a vampire on this stuff. I just feed off that. And so it's this reverse learning. Yeah, I bring something to the table as well, but yeah, younger people just have this new way of looking at the world that is always fascinating and just inspiring along the way.
They're quite serious as well, a lot of them. They're much more serious than I was at that age. So I think they're already wiser.
Well, that's when I take them out and teach them how to misbehave. Now, speaking of which, are there moments where it all goes awry? How do you sort of know? How do you make the call? And how do you extract yourself? What are the pitfalls?
Of what?
Well, those partnerships, those people. We touched on it a little bit earlier with Alex in terms of people, and you will have the wrong hire. Sometimes it's the wrong founder even. Sometimes the relationship with, your investors can break down. Sometimes you're knee deep in contracts with someone that had just gone pear-shaped. What do you do next?
I think as a founder, the best skill you'll develop, and you have to develop it, and it's one that I still struggle with, is walking away from things, whether that be a customer, whether it be a partner, whether it be a staff member, whatever it might be, and doing it really quite brutally. And I think but most people know when something's going wrong. Don't convince yourself you can fix it. You're not it's not the boyfriend trying to change the girlfriend or the girlfriend trying to change the boyfriend. You can't change people. You can't change partnerships. You can't change relationships. You can't change bad staff members. And you're going to experience all of them. And I think I'm so much better at it than I was in my first company. My first company was full of wrong fits everywhere, and I left them there for years, and it was a disaster. Now, 2 companies later, I'm still not as good at it as I would like to be, but we fire a lot of clients all the time. We end partnerships all the time. And the sense of relief and happiness, and almost it spurs you on once you've done it, because you feel incredibly powerful. I would just do it really super quick. When it is, just make that action. Tell someone you're going to do it. And that's a way to make yourself accountable. I always go and tell a staff member if I'm going to do something, and then I have to do it, right? Because I've told someone I'm going to do it. And if I don't, I'm going to look like a right idiot. So by sort of making yourself accountable, by voicing it and saying it to someone, you'll find it's probably easier to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with all of that stuff you just said there, Steve. I would also say that, I've seen it many times with lots of companies. I've been there, experienced it myself too. And it's hard, it's challenging, especially, if you're a people person, you don't want to let people down, you don't want to let the business down. It's very, very difficult. But I think it's just about being honest and putting the business first, and not as hard as it sounds, but not the actual personal relationship or anything, putting the business first and what's best for the business to grow and succeed and scale. And that even comes down to the founder and the CEO. I've seen it lots of times where the founder isn't the best person to take that business forward once it reaches a certain stage. And that happens many times. And I'm sure from an investor perspective as well, that's something you look for at a certain stage once a business grows and scales. So it's just being honest and actually being open to seeing when that problem arises and addressing it as quickly as possible.
I agree with what's been said. I think the only other thing I would add is that pressure creates diamonds. So these don't have to be bad outcomes. It doesn't all have to end in shit. It really can be the opportunity to turn things around. I mean, we found ourselves in a sort of 2-year pandemic, and I was at Uber at the time, and sort of the the rides business just went completely through the floor. What did they do? They pivoted into parcel delivery, which is now still what I hear a big channel for them. So when things go wrong, when things happen, whether it's with people, with your strategy, with your operations, see opportunity to make it better, lean on those mentors, lean on your VC, and really work to create diamonds out of the situation you're in.
Exactly, yes. or whatever precious stone floats your boat. I do want to ask a similar thing that I asked Alex. How do you celebrate and mark those moments and sort of just say that these relationships are valuable? How do you sort of keep that spark in it so that partnerships don't get stale along the way and you don't take each other for granted?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think what it's about is just setting key metrics or KPIs or outcomes up front, and once they're achieved or a certain milestone's achieved, then celebrate. Congratulate. Whether that's with a partner, whether it's your team, whether it's a customer. There's no harm in even just picking up the phone, having a conversation, and just having that moment to say, congratulations, well done. Something as simple as that makes someone feel really, really positive and good. But I would say the bigger picture is, as soon as something has been achieved, then celebrate. As simple as that.
I think there's a couple of things that we did during COVID that I think can work really well with partnerships. When we were all in lockdown, we would have a meeting once a week for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And the point of that was so that it was trying to emulate what it was like to walk into the office on a Tuesday and talk about nothing. And I think that's a really important part of the way humans grow. If you do those meetings with I wouldn't suggest doing it every week because they'll think you're super weird. But if you do those meetings with your partners and you potentially talk about where you might be, going on the weekend or things like that, the conversation starts to really flow. And once it starts to flow without a specific outcome, you start coming up with ideas with each other and you start coming up with new ways to make your partnership grow. Or you find that you're both thinking about maybe taking your company in a direction and they're taking their company in a direction, and you could probably help each other. And it's having conversations for no reason is where you actually end up finding the best diamonds. Did I get a woo? No. So I would focus on that. I would make time to just talk about nothing with your partners, and you'll be amazed the conversations that come out of that. That's worked for us.
I think that's a bit of a pearl, really. It's sort of the moments of irritation that end up with something lustrous.
And cupcakes. No, I mean, I think everything that's been said is spot on, and Alex raised some awesome points around reward and recognition. I think internally we're really conscious of acknowledging when people go above and beyond the call of duty, and I think with our companies as well. And so I think calling that out, sending cupcakes, whatever it is that they like, acknowledging them through PR if you can. And just being really live and mindful to what's going on around you, and really ready to celebrate that as people deserve it.
You should really send all of your celebrations to Startup Daily so that they can publish them for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have a celebration page. Shout outs. I do want to mention, because I was listening to Mark Pesce, the futurist, and he's been investing and involved in tech for 40 years. He had a conversation with Adam Spencer on Welcome to Day One, which is a podcast that Startup Daily is supporting. Thoroughly recommend, because it's talking to about 160 amazing people in the sector. The point he made is that in Australia, we are incredibly collaborative and do support and help each other. Whereas America, where he hails from, is much more rugged individual. Yes, I did all of this all on my own. Whereas out here, you guys support, lift each other up. And I think that's something everyone should give themselves a big clap on the back for. And, and today's a classic example of that. You guys coming along to help and everyone involved in today. I'm going to throw it open to you guys because I'm sure there are questions. Who's got one? Shit, we're good at this. We don't have to. Oh, okay. Oh. Here comes the dial.
Steve, this one's for you. You mentioned a community earlier. Could I get the name of that again, please?
Oh, it's called CUB. C-U-B.
C-U-B.
Yeah.
That's it for me. I'm sure I'll get more in a minute.
Absolutely nailed that question, I did. Nailed it. Thank you.
I'll take that as a comment. Are we all done? All right. Well, that was easy, wasn't it? Can you please put your hands together? A massive thanks for Bradley, Steve, and Bree. And over to you, Kathy. Bring
Amazing.
it home, open the bar.
Not much for me to say, except that on days and events and nights like this, as everyone scrambles for a bit of a competitive advantage, you're absolutely doing it by showing up and showing out to things like this to catch everything that's been said today by our amazing panelists, by Alex and, can't see Greta, but from everyone that's here. Can only get that out if you guys are here. So thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow is part 2. If this was part 1 or part 2, any way you want to put it, but it's probably relevant. And if you're not quite there yet, it's great to see what's on the horizon. So do join us tomorrow. It won't look anything like this. It will be whatever the next team tomorrow bring to the table, and you don't want to miss it. Thanks for joining us. Stay around for a drink, have a chat to everybody who's here. There's more competitive advantage and more fun to be had. Thanks for joining us.